Hey, this is Tony Panzeca. This is Life Lessons from the Garden 3B because I couldn't fit everything in 3A. If you didn't see 3A, please watch that first because it'll make more sense to you. I started a page on Facebook. It's called Life Lessons from the Garden, so that's where you'd find it. The last time I left off, I was talking about how I had to go and fill out a form and had to fill out check a box for my my race, and I kind of wondered where that all came from. So I did a little checking history-wise, and it's very complicated and convoluted, but I found one interesting thing that I'm going to share with you, and that is back in 1871, there were two ways of thought. One was called polygeny, and they believed that we all descended from a number of different races, 4 different races, but there was another theory called monogeny, which believed that we all came from one common ancestor, one from the beginning. And actually Darwin believed in that, which also coincides with creationism, and that's also the thought today. So my point of that is that we all come from a common ancestor. We're more connected than we realize. The other thing that really kind of shows that is a recent study they did with DNA. With DNA samples, they can test your genealogy and see where you're connected. They did a test in England, and they had people from all different nations, but these people were supposedly only German, only French. They didn't think they had other connections. When they did their DNA testing, they found out that their lineage came from all parts of the world, which was really cool. This one person, she was Kurdish, and they asked her a question. They said, is there one particular nation that you don't care for? And she said, well, of course, Turkish, because they kicked us out of our land. When they did her DNA, they found out she was part Turkish. Not only that she was part Turkish, but one of the other people they tested who was Turkish was her distant cousin. And he came down, and they hugged and they kissed, and there was real healing there. And again, it shows how connected we are. Second thing I'd like to tell you about is this other man who looked at his results, and he said, I'm a Muslim Jew. And to speak on that a little bit more, you know, there's probably the longest battle between people has been 5,000 years has been between the Jews and Arabs. And what happened is when the Jews believe that their ancestry comes from Abraham, and so does the Arabs believe that their ancestry comes from Abraham. So when we look at this, it's true, because in the Old Testament, which they both believe, is that Abraham was 90 years old. His wife Sarah was 80. They hadn't had any kids yet, and you might think, well, that's pretty old to have kids, but he lived to 175 or something, so he was kind of in a midlife crisis. But anyway, Sarah says, listen, I don't know if I'm going to have kids with my maidservant Hagar. Hagar was not Jewish. So he does, and she has a son, and it's Ishmael. That's the son. So 13 years later, Sarah becomes pregnant. She has a son. His name is Isaac. So Isaac became the lineage of the people of Israel, of the Jewish nation. And Ishmael became the lineage of the people of the Arab nations. And what is so amazing is that they're half brothers, and yet for 5,000 years they've been fighting each other. And I think the message here again is that we are more connected than we realize, and I think if we realize that, there would be less war in the world, less problems amongst people. If you look at my shirt today, I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's a John Lennon shirt, and it says, "Give peace a chance." That's my message today. Peace and love.